Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. School has been very hectic, and now I can finally get back to what I love doing, which is making these videos. Let's get into it. When asked about survival video games and which ones really stick out to you, what are some of the answers that you come up with? Games that have in-depth building, large open worlds, and systems that may make them stand out from one another. All these games have so many things that separate them from each other, whether it's the entire planet filled with water from Subnautica, which is absolutely terrifying, to the infinitely generated worlds of Minecraft. Each of these games has something unique about them, something that makes them stand out. But you want to know what these contemporary games don't have is an absolute dime piece that has 3 arms and 3 legs and wants me. And she wants me bad, and you can't tell me that she doesn't. These games don't have physics-based building mechanics, which is challenging yet insanely rewarding. These games do not have cannibals attempting to hunt you down while you play. But do you want to know what game does have all these features? Well, if you used your eyes and your literary skills and looked at the thumbnail and the title, you can probably come to a conclusion on the game. We're talking about Sons of the Forest. That's the game we're going to be talking about today. Sons of the Forest is a first-person open-world survival horror game that blends sandbox creativity, environmental storytelling, AI-driven enemies, and a psychological sci-fi mystery into one interconnected experience. At its core, the game is about surviving on a hostile island, but nearly every mechanic, from building to combat to companion behavior, is designed to make the world feel reactive, immersive, and alive. The survival system is the foundation of everything in this game. You must manage hunger, thirst, stamina, sleep, and health while navigating through the forests, mountains, rivers, beaches, and underground cave systems. Meat spoils and unclean water sources are a couple of ways this game makes food have an actual real feeling to it. Eating spoiled meat or drinking unclean water causes you to get sick and to have to take medication to cure it or suffer stat penalties. You are encouraged to hand dry your meat to prolong its life, as well as boil your water in order to get rid of all the bacteria that may be inside. Some people may see this as tedious and monotonous, but there is nothing more realistic than this in terms of how food is handled in a game that I've seen really ever. Seasons dynamically change the landscape. Winter freezes lakes and makes food scarcer. Spring restores plant life. Summer offers abundance, and fall shifts animal behavior. Weather affects visibility, temperature, and even combat. Survival is not simply about avoiding enemies, but it is more so about understanding the ecosystem and adapting to it. Hunting deer, catching fish, gathering berries, cooking meat, purifying water, and maintaining shelter all contribute to long-term sustainability and survival. The building system is one of the most advanced aspects of the game. Unlike traditional survival games that rely entirely on blueprint placement, Sons of the Forest allows free-form construction. You physically cut down trees, chop the logs into different lengths, split them into planks, and place them manually. Walls, floors, roofs, defensive spikes, watchtowers, gates, and cabins can all be constructed piece by piece. Although you can place down pre-built designs of cabins and other structures, you still manually gather and place each part of the building, making it feel truly your own. Structural physics matter. Logs snap together, beams support weight, and improper designs can leave gaps and or completely topple your structure down, further reinforcing, no pun intended, the importance of bracing your buildings and reinforcing them to the max. Defensive building becomes crucial as cannibal raids increase over time. You can construct fortified compounds with layered walls, traps, and elevated platforms, or build aesthetic lakeside cabins purely for immersion. The tactile nature of placing every log reinforces the feeling that the shelter is something you physically created, not just selected from a menu. This is something that is not usually done in these types of survival games, sort of like Subnautica. Minecraft is a good example. Although Minecraft never claims to be hyper-realistic, there is never any support structure needed for building. Obviously, Minecraft never claims to be realistic, I understand. But having it be this realistic and forcing you to lay down the beams that will support the weight of your massive log cabin is such a cool yet simple concept to me and keeps with the theme of the building realism. Something I think that is super cool about the game is if you took out the horror aspect from the survival horror in this game, I fully know it could stand on its own as simply just a purely survival game. The crafting and building mechanics are already so strong on their own, and pairing that with the hunting, which could be done with a gun, or a bow and arrow, or even traps you could make for smaller game, and the exploration that is always encouraging you to keep exploring because of what you may find, make this game so good and so capable of being just a survival game. It does not need anything inherently scary or, for that matter, even real storytelling to keep it engaging for the players. Furthermore, crafting complements building by allowing you to combine scavenged and natural materials into tools, weapons, medicine, and utilities. Early crafting includes spears, bows and arrows, clubs, and improvised explosives. But as you explore deeper bunkers and caves, you find advanced weapons like pistols, shotguns, and tactical gear. Crafting also extends to armor, such as the bone armor made from defeated enemies, or tech armor found in facilities. Backpack crafting system encourages experimentation, visually showing items combining on a tarp rather than through abstract menus, enhancing immersion. Resource management becomes a balance between immediate survival needs and long-term preparation. Combat in the game is brutal and grounded. Melee combat is weighty and stamina-based. It requires blocking, timing, and positioning. Melee combat is the high point of this game, as it does feel a lot better than the gunplay. One gripe I do have about this game is the gunplay seems very outdated. Gunplay from the original Halo tops the gunplay in this game. They feel like Nerf guns, both shooting as well as actually hitting your target. Certain enemies in this game are literal bullet sponges that eat the already scarce ammo you find throughout the game. This wouldn't normally be a problem given how they look. However, the fact that you cannot create any more ammo means that it's not a, easily obtainable resource. Although there is a 3D printer in the game, you actually can't craft ammo through the 3D printer, which I think is something that should have been implemented, at least for the 9mm, but that's besides the point. The animations as well don't feel as weighty as they should. Shooting a shotgun just doesn't have that oomph you would expect it to have in a game like this. Overall, the hand-to-hand combat is some of the best, and counteractively, the gunplay definitely left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. And it is just my opinion, as I asked the same question to some of my friends who I did the recent playthrough with for this video, and they said that they loved it. A quote from one of my good friends, and I have it right here just in case I forgot. "I like the gunplay." That is it. This absolute Socratesian quote by my one friend shows that it really is just an opinion-based thing, and just because I may not enjoy the gunplay doesn't mean that some people will also not enjoy the gunplay. So I can fully understand why it may appeal to some people. However, I think other games have done it a lot better. Sorry for the jump scare, I had to lose the hoodie. It's getting a little bit hot. So now, getting into the enemies. Enemies do not mindlessly rush you. They observe, retreat, flank, and test defenses. Enemies in this game are the cannibals, and I'm assuming this is sort of what the Forest franchise is the most well known for. As we get more into the story, you will come to understand why they are the way that they are, but first let's take a look at them in the game and how they react to you. Cannibals behave like intelligent tribal groups rather than just mindless zombies. Some are scouts who watch you from tree lines, others are aggressive hunters who coordinate attacks. Certain tribes paint themselves different, wear armor, or use tools. Over time, their hostility increases depending on your actions. Cutting down trees in the forest, killing other tribe members, or expanding your base may provoke stronger raids. This evolving AI system creates a sense that the island is reacting to you rather than just existing statically. Cannibal AI is actually very, very intuitive. Once you land on the island, the cannibals do not simply jump you just because. They are instead curious and wonder what you may be, and assess you and deem you a threat to them, if you are one, which, let's be real, you will be. They also don't just attack one-on-one and make it easy for you to kill them. They instead group up and try to overwhelm you with their sheer numbers. The smaller, faster enemies will scout you, while the bigger ones will watch from a distance, and this all culminates in a raid on your base, not if, but when they deem you a threat. Companions significantly change the gameplay dynamics. Kelvin, we love him, is a brain-injured soldier who survives the crash. He cannot speak, but follows written commands. He can gather logs, fish, build basic structures, and assist with survival tasks. His presence adds emotional weight as he reacts physically to trauma and danger, and you want to keep him alive. And he's just the best fucking dude ever. He's adorable, and even if you point a gun at him, he'll shake his head no. He'll say no, don't do it, but he can't speak. But he still knows what you want to do to him. But he's just so lovable and he's so cute and it's so funny that the game developers added this in. It's just such a great way to integrate a companion naturally into the game. Virginia, the partially mutated daughter of the island's missing CEO, is more autonomous. She may observe you from a distance before slowly building trust. If befriended, she assists in combat, she can carry weapons, and defends the base. Unlike scripted companions in many games, both characters operate within the game's systematic AI, moving, reacting, and surviving dynamically. She is also the love of my life, and I love her, and it definitely goes both ways. Exploration is another defining feature of the game. The island is vast and filled with interconnected caves, abandoned camps, high-tech bunkers, maintenance tunnels, and ancient underground structures. Cave systems are genuinely terrifying and create the sense of claustrophobia as well as confusion as to where you actually have already been. Caves are intentionally dark, obviously, and the light sources you get in the game are just good enough to make out what might be in front of you, giving you a sense of panic as to what could be around the corner. Keycards unlock deeper levels of Puff Corp's facilities, gradually revealing the science fiction layer of the narrative. Environmental storytelling replaces heavy exposition. Emails, security footage, staged rooms, and visual cues tell the story of corporate ambition and catastrophic failure. The deeper you go, the more the tone shifts from grounded survival to cosmic horror, culminating in the discovery of the mysterious golden cube and its interdimensional properties. Graphically and atmospherically, the game emphasizes realism and immersion. Dense forests sway dynamically, lighting shifts naturally through the day-night cycle, and sound design heightens tension. Distant screams, snapping branches, cave echoes, and sudden silence all builds unease. And also, one thing that I absolutely fucking hate about this game, and I can't stand it, and I have a whole blurb in here, or I'm sorry, not even a whole blurb, I have one sentence in this part, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. I hate the bats. It literally, in my script right here, it says, fuck the bats. You walk in a cave or to a cave entrance or exit, and you'll just get jump scared by the loudest sound possible.
Fucking bats, brother. Jesus Christ.
A literal atom bomb dropping, and it's just 5 bats running at you or flying at you. The game developers knew exactly what they were doing with this. I love them for it. It's hilarious, but it gets me every single fucking time. But I digress. The first-person perspective keeps encounters intimate and often unsettling. Nights are genuinely dark unless illuminated, making preparation essential. Multiplayer expands the experience by allowing cooperative survival. Friends can divide responsibilities. While one focuses on construction, another can be on exploration, while another is on the defense of the base. Or they could do what most people do and tackle tasks and objectives together. Because the world reacts dynamically, multiplayer sessions often create emergent stories unique to each group. Ultimately, Sons of the Forest blends sandbox freedom with narrative mystery. It is simultaneously a base-building simulator, a survival management challenge, a tactical combat game, and a slow-burn science fiction horror story. Every system, from chopping a tree to confronting a mutant, connects back to the core theme. Humans trying to survive and control an environment shaped by forces far beyond their understanding. So with all the framework laid of what the game entails, let's get into the story. In Sons of the Forest, the story truly begins the moment your helicopter approaches the island owned by Puff Corp, a company that publicly advertises a luxury development project but has mysteriously gone silent. You are part of a private military rescue team sent to locate Edward Puffton, his wife Barbara, and their daughter Virginia, after contact with the island is lost. Before you can even land, a strange pale humanoid figure appears, attacking the crew. The helicopter lands safely. Of course it doesn't. I don't think any video game that has a helicopter in it ever lands, like ever. I think it's just always a foregone conclusion that it will crash, inevitably. The aircraft crashes into one of 3 places: the forest, the beach, or the mountains, giving you a slightly different start each time you play, immediately isolating you from the outside world. When you wake up, you are spared by the same mysterious attacker, who knocks you unconscious rather than killing you, hinting early on that there are larger forces at play beyond simple survival. After the crash, you discover Kelvin, a fellow soldier who survives but suffers a bit of brain damage trauma that leaves him unable to speak and deaf. Kelvin becomes your first companion, as we talked about, reinforcing the theme that survival on the island is cooperative rather than solitary. Playing this game is better with your friends. Not only is it a lot more fun and makes progressing your way through the game a lot easier, but it reinforces narratively by having multiple helicopters crash, meaning it is not a stretch to imagine 3 or 4 of you manage to survive. As you begin exploring, you quickly realize that the island is not merely abandoned. It is inhabited by organized groups of cannibals who display social structure, patrol patterns, and even signs of ritualistic behavior. This suggests that they were once humans if they have these types of structures in place in their society, and it's really interesting to see that they have a society at all. The cannibals don't speak. Instead, they communicate with each other through screams or yelps, showing that they do have some level of communication on this island. The surface exploration reveals scattered supply camps from past expeditions, dead operatives at camps that they set up shortly after being shot down, as well as entrances to high-tech underground facilities, signaling that Puff Corp had built far more than a simple resort on the island. As you descend into the underground bunkers, the tone shifts from survival horror to science fiction mystery. You uncover luxury living quarters, dining halls, and research labs, showing that the island was meant to house wealthy elites. In one bunker in particular, you find the aftermath of a formal gala dinner attended by the Puftons and their investors. The tables are still set, but the guests are frozen in grotesque poses, transformed mid-meal into distorted creatures. Through environmental storytelling, documents, emails, and security footage, you learn that Puff Corp was studying a massive alien cube buried down deep underneath the island. This cube activates periodically, releasing a dimensional pulse. Anyone caught outside its protective interior during activation mutates violently, while those inside remain unharmed. I guess now would be a good time to discuss the game's very interesting enemy type, and I have carefully written my script to avoid talking about these things so we can go a little bit more in detail about them. So, with that being said, let me introduce you to some of these creatures, or as they are formerly known, mutants. Babies. Babies are a mutated baby that crawls towards you and then shrieks as it does a leap attack. Some of the most annoying enemies in the game, as they are everywhere underground. They give you no creepy armor and are just generally a nuisance to deal with. Blind mutants. The most common mutant you will find underground, usually in small groups scattered through the long corridors of the caves or in the open areas. They are genuinely everywhere, and one of the most unsettling ones to spot, as before they notice you, they twitch slightly and move unrealistically while waiting for you, with no mouth or no eyes, making them all the more terrifying. The Fingers. Also known by my friend group as Mr. Teeth, this mutant is dangerous. It is a bipedal mutant with fingers around a gaping hole in its torso and head. This mutant will move slowly one moment, then quickly the next, and can deal heavy damage with up to 3 swings of its head. This is probably the first real mutant you will come into contact with that is unrecognizable and has little to no human traits left on them other than their legs. Like all other mutants, they are absolute bullet sponges and take forever to put down. A caterpillar. This is a real cat-dog situation here. A truly disgusting mutant, and one that is very rare to see. On my most recent playthrough of this game for this video, I have yet to even discover one of these yet. They are long, double-ended mutants that slink its way towards you and attacks non-stop with powerful swings of its body. They are very dangerous, but you can sidestep their attacks, and obviously they are also bullet sponges. The Twins. My personal favorite design of mutants, and one of the creepiest ones at that. They are a male and female mutant joined at the hip. It will crawl towards you slowly with its long arms, trying to sneak up on you. This mutant is also capable of climbing walls and ceilings, and when it attacks, it can move fairly quickly and strike from a wide range around itself. It also fucking burrows out of the ground, and that is one of the most disturbing things you can see, and it's terrifying when it comes out of nowhere. Legsy. A new mutant introduced in the full 1.0 release. It has 2 thick legs at the top and 2 large hands that help it move around, with addition of several fingers. This game, they love fingers in this game. It slithers around on the ground, flicking its strong legs over to perform attacks and absolutely fuck you up. Holy. Another new mutant introduced in the 1.0 release. This mutant is a large mound of flesh with 3 legs. It has holes that cover its entire body. Given its size, it is surprisingly agile and will leap and jump towards you. This is a mutant that is more so found in the later game areas and or when you actually activate the ancient armor. When they come for the multiple raids of your base or wherever you end up doing it at, they will spawn a couple of these holy guys, and they are bitches to put down. In my playthrough, I actually haven't come into contact with these guys really all that much, and honestly, it's a really good thing that I didn't, because look at this guy.
Do not leave me around him with all those holes. I get real lonely on this island, and come on.
Mr. and Mrs. Puffton. Found at the end of the food and dining bunker, these 2 mutants wear formal wear and behave similarly to the blind mutants, but have much more health. These are the 2 people we were doing this whole mission for, to find the Puftons and find out why they went silent and to make sure they're okay. I think it's safe to say they're doing less than stellar right now, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a scientist. And finally, the demon. The final mutant you meet in the game is the titular demon, a thin creature with long limbs that can move quickly towards you at insane speeds. You can often hear them moving in the distance in some caves or bunkers. They are pretty much the hardest enemy in the game unless you have the power of Jesus Christ on your side, because all you need to take these puppies down is one shake of the cross and a can-do attitude. There is also a giant one of these, found right before the cube area in the end of the game, that adds a ton of fear into my heart every time I gotta fight it. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't go up and cuddle these guys at their normal size. However, they do not compare to the level of discomfort I get from some of the other mutants. But slap that bitch in the end game area and make him 5 times the size of a normal one, and you got me quivering in the corner contemplating shutting the game down. I equate the fear of these guys to seeing a bug. The bug itself is not inherently creepy. However, if you saw a dog-sized centipede or praying mantis, I'm taking the easy way out and throwing myself in oncoming traffic at my earliest convenience. All of this to say, the mutants you come into contact with in this game are terrifying and add such a good touch to this game. At a certain point, you don't even just get to experience them in the underworld, but they will also come in droves and attack your base, leading to absolute destruction of your compound if not taken care of swiftly and in proper ways. Every mutant you can think of, barring a couple, will come up to the surface and wreak havoc upon you without the proper means to defend yourself. And you are, in a word, fucked. Alright, back to the story. Eventually, you encounter Virginia Puffton. She has been partially mutated, now possessing extra limbs, yet she behaves differently from the hostile cannibals. She's skittish but not aggressive, suggesting she retained her humanity. Over time, she may begin to trust you, reinforcing the idea that the mutation on the island does not always erase identity. Her condition implies she was near the cube or partially shielded by it when it was activated. This detail is important because it establishes the cube is not simply a mutating force, but as a device that alters reality itself in unpredictable ways. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we're in the clear. Virginia is a bad bitch, and I don't care what anyone has to say about it. 3 legs, 3 arms, 3 eyes, I could not care less. I'm gonna need her to step on me as soon as humanly possible. Thank you very much. As exploration continues, you find deeper cave systems containing ancient architecture predating Puff Corp by centuries or even a millennia. Carvings and religious symbols depict the cube as an object of worship. These discoveries reveal that a long-lost advanced civilization once discovered the artifact and built elaborate structures around it. The implication is that this civilization either destroyed itself or transcended reality through misuse of the cube. Puff Corp was not the first group to attempt to harness its power, just the most recent. Throughout your journey, you repeatedly cross paths with the well-dressed man in a silver jacket, later identified as, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounce this name, Jianyu Zhang. Unlike the cannibals or mutants, he is fully aware of what the cube is capable of. He appears to be a corporate infiltrator or rival operative attempting to claim control of the artifact for himself. His presence adds a layer of human greed and ambition to the conflict. While the island's horrors are partially alien in origin, the ongoing danger is fueled by human desire for power. A little sidebar here, I assume everyone who may be watching this knows about the first game. about Timmy and Eric LeBlanc, Eric being the dad of and the dad and the main character of the first game, and Timmy being his son who gets captured. Although two separate places, they do have some things in common, meaning the islands, and hence is the reason why Timmy and Eric can be found here. In Sons of the Forest, the events on the second island are deeply connected to what happened years earlier in the original game, particularly the story of Timmy and his father Eric in the first game. Eric survives a plane crash and discovers that the corporation Sahara Therapeutics was experimenting with ancient artifact capable of resurrecting the dead at the cost of another life. Eric ultimately uses the artifact to bring his son Timmy back, but the resurrection is not clean. Timmy survives, yet he experiences violent seizures and disturbing visions, suggesting the exposure to the artifact permanently altered him. This unresolved consequence carries directly into Sons of the Forest. By the time Sons of the Forest takes place, Timmy is an adult and has dedicated his life to understanding the artifacts that changed him. He appears on the island under the name Tim LeBlanc, heavily armed and actively investigating the cube. His father Eric is also involved and can be seen in a few sequences. Their presence reveals that the events of the first game were not isolated. Timmy's childhood exposure to the resurrection artifact seems to have given him insight, or at least obsession, with similar alien technology. Rather than being survivors, Timmy and Eric are now part of a broader attempt to uncover the truth behind these artifacts and possibly prevent further catastrophes. When the cube activates again, you and your companions manage to enter it in time. Inside, reality shifts violently, and you witness a vision of a futuristic, seemingly alien city, sleek towers and advanced civilizations existing in another dimension. This confirms that the cube does not just mutate, it bridges realities. Jean Yu, partially outside of the cube's protection, mutates rapidly into a massive creature, embodying the destructive consequence of human greed. After this, the cube seals itself once more. After escaping the facility, a rescue helicopter arrives. At this point, you must choose whether to leave the island or stay. If you choose to leave, Timmy and Eric depart as well, suggesting they will continue investigating these artifacts elsewhere. If you stay, you reject, escape, and remain on the island, possibly seeking deeper understanding. This final decision reflects the overarching theme connecting both games: humanity's struggle between survival and the temptation to control forces beyond comprehension. Timmy's journey from resurrected child to determined investigator serves as the emotional bridge between the two stories, showing that the consequences of tampering with ancient power do not end when the immediate crisis is over. Overall, the story's great. I do put an emphasis on environmental storytelling in video games above all else. Show don't tell is a philosophy I love in video games and media in general, and with Sons of the Forest not outright explaining everything for you and leaving it up to you to figure out is the best part about its story. Finding clues hidden throughout the map as to what happened with the cultists and with everything that is happening makes it feel like you are actually finding it, and makes it all the more rewarding for piecing it together on your own. However, if you do so happen to miss some of the key items, you are kind of just fucked and may miss a huge piece of lore. However, these key item pieces are usually in important places where your guard should be high and you should already be on the lookout for important things. Now, this game is by no means perfect, as any game is, and there are some plot holes in the story and also some gameplay things I don't really agree with. So let's be completely objective and let's talk about the negatives. The story is a bit odd towards the end. I like the idea of being a part of the military trying to find the Puffins at the beginning. I think that's cool, and even the bunkers and actually finding the Puffins transformed. However, the alien portion of it was a bit odd and felt a bit like a cop-out, and the demons from hell did not really make much sense to me. Maybe I missed something, and that could be true, but to me, it just didn't land. Other than the creepy midsummer cult, there was no indication of religious horror, so it just felt a bit odd and slightly out of place. Ultimately, I'm more of a fan of realistic horror, even if it is something as unrealistic as people transforming into mutants. I preferred how the first game did it, having an in-depth explanation as to why so many of these mutants were running around the map and where they came from. Now, I do understand with the upcoming announcement of the third game, it's going to be taking place on an actual new planet. So I do understand that the ancient technology in the first game was of alien origin. I get that. But the cube was kind of just weird with the whole multiple dimensions, multiple realities, and truthfully, maybe my baby brain could not comprehend it. So if you guys can understand it a little bit more than me, drop it down in the comments below. I'd love to listen to what you guys have to think about it. Unfortunately, I just didn't really understand it, I guess. This leads directly into my next point and issues with the story in general. First game story gave you a moral decision to make: to save your son and sacrifice another child, or let your son pass but end the cycle. Final boss was gut-wrenching because it was the main scientist of Sahara Therapeutics' daughter who he tried to experiment on in hopes of making her better. However, it backfired and turned her into a mutant. So actually having to kill this spider-like mutant that grew out of her body was devastating, as your character knew what it was like to potentially lose your child and the lengths someone would go to keep them alive. But the final boss of Sons of the Forest is just a blob man who is obsessed with the cube, so I just don't feel like there's much substance there. The last and final gripe that I have with this game is how Timmy is handled. Essentially, he is like a superhero, I guess, being able to control his mutant arm and fling it around like a character straight out of the Marvel universe. This part really just does not make a lot of sense to me, in that it can truly deform people to the point of turning them into this. Then how can it not deform Timmy? And how is he able to control it at will? It just seems sort of like another cop-out to write off Timmy's abilities as different from the others. I understand that Timmy was not caught in the blast like the Puffins were, however the mutants are more or less the same as the first island, showing that these mutants are essentially one and the same. Obviously, I am grasping at straws here, and I wouldn't be a video game sort of investigator if I didn't look at the negatives or my personal dislikes of the game, as well as everything that I do love about it. As I stated earlier, I was not too big of a fan of the gunplay, but a couple of my friends really did enjoy it. Goes to show that certain things you may not enjoy in this video game could be a point of interest for someone else, or a reason that they play the game altogether. So with that being said, Sons of the Forest is not perfect. There are downfalls in the gameplay and story, but every game has that, and as a second iteration of a massively successful game that came out of nowhere, this game does everything to improve on what they made before. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know I said it a bit in the intro, but school has been very, very stressful as of late. I've been sort of packed to the brim with school and with work, so this sort of took a second, place, or I guess a third place to those two things. But I really appreciate all the patience with me. I'm already writing another script for a video, and I am so excited to make that one as well. Like I said, thank you so much for waiting, being patient, and giving me all the time I need to actually make quality content, because that's something I truly pride myself in, that I don't just make reaction videos or anything like that. But sincerely, from me to you, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.